I'm a man of few words this morning. I am a man of few words this morning. I don't think I'm really a man of few words. Just thought I would start my show off a little quietly. Then I realized something that I had for dinner was on my shirt. Something I had for dinner was not on my shirt, and that I didn't want to do a live show, especially such an early morning live show, especially what's going to no doubt be an epic live show, and I say that totally tongue-in-cheek, with a stain on my shirt. So good morning to you. My name is Ken Tracy, and this is Coffee with Ken. It is 5:07 a.m. It's Tuesday morning. It is August 13th. Happy Tuesday. It's a show I've been doing for a while. Over 5 years. It's a show about me talking. A show about me sharing some feelings. Good morning, Will Bill Chill. Good morning, Chip. Good morning, RJ. Show about me sharing some ups and downs we have in life. Sharing some experiences. But for those who have been watching a while, you know it's also a show about me sharing my love of coffee. And at RJ's begging, good morning, Miss or Mr. McLaughlin. I've already taken a sip. He couldn't wait for my first sip, but I barely even remember that first sip. I am very excited to have my second sip at this early hour on this Tuesday morning. And my hope is wherever you are and whatever you're doing, that you got a hot cup of coffee in front of you as well. Cheers to us. I showed you the bag already this morning when I was in my kitchen. It's the Starbucks Sumatra. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit. I will tell you what, for anybody out there that's into flavored coffee, and I'm into flavored coffee. I drink pumpkin spice and cinnamon dolce and any other flavor that catches my mood. But it's nice to ground yourself in fundamentals. Good morning, Adam. And I consider the Starbucks Sumatra, and calling it a basic coffee might be not doing it, giving it the credit that it deserves, because it's a lot more than that. It's a big coffee. It's a big flavor, not flavored like, it's got a lot of coffee flavor. Deep, dark roast. And I think it's what I needed this morning. Had a lot on my mind the last couple days. Had a lot going on the last couple weeks, couple months, couple years, heck, couple decades. 2 decades ago, I was just married for the first time. I was 35 years old, kind of living in a brand new construction townhome in Lisle, Illinois, with my who just had become my first wife. Didn't have any kids. We had a beautiful dog we loved named Boo Boo. The neighborhood wasn't even fully built yet, and we'd walk our dog around the neighborhood. There wasn't grass put down in the yards, and Boo Boo would get muddy paws. And I don't like muddy paws on new carpet, so we do our best to clean them, but we'd meet a bunch of fun new people, fun young couples starting their lives off together. And yeah, lots changed. While in some ways that 20 years ago seems like a different life, in a lot of ways it seems like just yesterday. Just yesterday. I mean, I remember we had good friends, Jamie and Carrie, that lived just across the way from us. And they were a similar situation, young and married, and I think they still both follow me on Instagram. Neither of us had any children at the time, and they now have two young adults. One young lady's off to her sophomore year in college. I've got a daughter going to college in the next week, and neither of them even existed 20 years ago. Yeah, but a lot of ways it seems like just yesterday as well. So it's kind of a weird feeling reflecting. Was my first wedding big? It was pretty big. It was a big, big. Yeah, it probably had 150 or 80 people at it. My first wife was from Michigan. She grew up in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And I grew up in the western suburbs of Chicago. And there's my parents owned a home in New Buffalo, Michigan. And there was a really nice golf course at the time, at least, called Whitaker Woods that was probably 90 miles from our home in Chicago and maybe 200 miles from my first wife's home where she grew up. So it's kind of a middle spot. And, had a destination wedding, and I tell you, there was some rocky moments just in the planning, and everything's a little more expensive and complicated and difficult than you'd expect, I guess. Guess that's why wedding planners have jobs. Everyone makes such huge to-dos about their weddings. Wonder how important huge to-dos are, because I was talking about my first wife, our first house, our dog, our having kids, the mud in the yard. I never was thinking about the wedding we had, and maybe wasn't the bride and didn't plan it, and maybe it's because we did eventually get divorced. But I'm wondering how many people look back on their marriage or on their life and think about their wedding day a whole heck of a lot. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm just saying I don't. And the big to-dos, and it was fun, but at the time I was a drinker and a smoker and probably did both, and probably overconsumed because that's what I was doing, and probably wish I would have done some things differently and stayed awake longer and whatever. But life and most weddings aren't fairy tales. They have overconsumption, drunk grooms, rainy mornings, expensive bills, complications, just like life does. Speaking of complications, I was out in Yellowstone for this summer working as a waiter. And I went there because as a twice divorced man with 4 kids, I have a lot of financial responsibilities. And also I was changing careers over the last couple of years, trying to get out of sales and get out of real estate sales specifically, and trying to figure out what I wanted to do as life went on. And because of that, and because of my financial responsibilities, and because I was leaving real estate, which had up and down moments and highs and lows and good times and bad, but easy months and very hard months, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I actually ran into a realtor I used to work with yesterday at the gym. Kudos to this guy, by the way. I didn't even recognize who he was. He asked me, he said he knew me, and we used to work together. And I go, really? You don't look familiar at all. And it was a guy that apparently was weighing like 240 pounds last time I saw him. And he was down to 160. And he was working out and he had muscles. And I could not believe it's the same guy. And he described what his life was like before. And then at the end, he goes, I was a heart attack waiting to happen. And he's lost 70 pounds. And he's working out. And he was talking about being grateful and alluding to being a new man. And he honestly pulled out a crucifix or a cross from under his shirt and showed it to me, saying, I don't know, whatever that symbolized to him. But that he was a new man. And I was blown away because he looked like a totally different guy. And kudos to him. But we talked a little bit about the real estate business. He said I was lucky to get out because there were a lot of changes that have happened and a lot more changes coming down the road. And I don't know if that's true or not. But I feel fortunate not to be doing it anymore either way. Because I just didn't like it. And was he a drinker? I'm not sure. I think he probably was. We didn't talk sobriety or anything like that. I think I'd seen him at gatherings and we were probably both drinking probably more than we needed, but I don't want to speak for anybody else. But I think that he probably was, if memory serves. But anyway, it was interesting seeing him. And again, I couldn't even recognize him. He had muscles. I tell you what, he may have had muscles before, but they were certainly insulated. And it was surprising. But anyway, it was interesting reflecting with him for a little bit about real estate. And he was more successful than me. He was selling more homes than I was. But he still didn't have many positive thoughts about it. And said I was lucky to be out. I could see that. It's hard sometimes breaking away from a career you've done a long time or and one that offers big paychecks and flexible schedules. And I think leaving real estate, although I'll tell you what, life hasn't been easy since I've left real estate, was a big step for me in my life. And an important step. And a step where I said, hey, I want to do something more. And I want to make a bigger difference and make an impact and change my life. And I had stopped drinking actually just about the same time. What time do I usually go to sleep at? Says Fern Mora. I don't know. I was asleep. I was in bed at like 9, I think. I was watching some TV. I can't even remember what it was. And next thing I knew, it was like 11:50, and I'd been sleeping for a couple of hours. And then I went back to sleep for a couple of more hours and drifted off and went back to sleep for a couple more hours and woke up at 4 and was kind of had a lot going on in my mind and a lot of thoughts. And I talk on my show how I struggled with anxiety and worry and fear. And I don't know that what I was facing during the night was anxiety, worry, or fear. Yes, it was a little anxiety, and yes, it was worrisome, and yes, I was slightly afraid. But I would say it wasn't irrational, my thinking. And I think that's maybe what the definition of suffering from anxiety, like an irrational worry. I would say the thoughts I had on my mind were important thoughts and ones I needed to face and deal with and be real about. But anyway, a few months ago, because I was twice divorced and because I have 4 beautiful kids and because I had a lot of financial responsibilities and because I was switching careers out of sales and out of real estate sales specifically, I was struggling to keep a roof over my head and cover my financial responsibilities. As a knee-jerk reaction, after my second divorce, and about a month after I left real estate, I took a job at a super Target. I thought I'd go in. It's a big corporation. You could move up, you know. Good store, like the store. Thought I'd bring my personality and enthusiasm to the store every morning. And I did bring my personality and my enthusiasm. It wasn't always so welcome, but that's neither here nor there. I was thinking about it this morning, but the guy that trained me had been working there. And he was a young guy, but he had a degree. I think he had a degree in history or something like that. And he might have been 25, maybe 26 years old. But he was a young guy, seemed like a good corporate kid. Had been there 5 years. And he trained me and took on responsibility in the training of me. And several months after he trained me, I asked, hey, why are you still, I maybe not so eloquently say, what do you make? And he was only making like $1 more an hour than me. And he'd been there 5 years, and he hadn't yet been promoted to the next step. And I looked at my two immediate bosses, and they'd been there 18 and 20 years, I think, respectively. And I couldn't get near covering my costs working there. And maybe you're not supposed to be twice divorced and working at Target. I'll tell you what, unless you're already moved up the corporate ladder, I'll tell you what, it doesn't work out too well. Let's see. Somebody said, hi, Ken, enjoying your life lessons. I am in Sydney, Australia, also separated and going through the ups and downs on being on my own. Yeah, no, it's Mark. Thank you for tuning in from Sydney, Australia. I appreciate you. But hold on, we're still going to stick with this story because it goes to, might be a long show, could be a short show. Let's have a little more coffee. But anyway, working at a Target, was making about $2,000 a month. I thought I'd either be promoted or I'd have another opportunity or my Coffee with Ken talk show. And that was $2,000 a month after taxes, I think. Yeah. Not after child support, though. And, I expected things to go different. I thought, hey, go in with a good attitude, be there on time every day, work hard, get promoted, build Coffee with Ken, life would open up and the world would take care of itself. And that was a hard time for a while. Because I felt like life was falling apart. I was getting a divorce. I got a divorce. I was in court. Yuck. Couldn't pay my rent. Couldn't pay my car bills. Couldn't pay my electric bills. And I was paying a reduced child support. And I was working full time. And I thought, this isn't working. This is not working. And again, there were a lot of dark times and dark periods and dark moments. But one way or the other, I think by waking with gratitude and feeling like I had a higher calling and feeling like I was doing the right thing and seeing the sunrise and thanking God every morning for the sunrise got me through some crazy hard times. Crazy hard times. But anyway, I'll just fast forward the next 6 months. I left Target about a year ago, last September. And I'll fast forward the next 6 months. But I was still struggling to keep a roof over my head and cover my financial responsibilities. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And a friend of mine sent me a link to a national park, Yellowstone, and said, hey, they're hiring here. You live in a dorm. You get food. The room and board is $500 a month, and they put you to work. And I go, hey, that might be good. So I rode my scooter off to Yellowstone and worked there. and I waited tables, which I've done a few times in my life. But I missed so much about the western suburbs of Chicago and living in the world. And hello from New Jersey. Civilization. And honestly, didn't really like living in a national park at all. And I'm not blaming the company that hired me or blaming anybody, but just the lifestyle of living in a national park at a place where you're either working or you're resting for your next shift. And for me, there was little to do in between work shifts, so I didn't really like it at all. However, the money was good, the hours were good, the tips were good, and the costs were low. So it worked out financially. And I got confidence. I enjoyed what I did. I felt I was a good waiter. I felt I made a difference. I was bringing joy and cheer to the tables that came in, at least most of them. And thought, hey, if I can do it here and work 40 to 45 hours a week and work double shifts and make good money, maybe I can bring my good attitude and my good spirit and my hard work and my desire to please the customer back to the suburbs of Chicago and be back with my kids and all the things I know and love in the suburbs of Chicago. So after 2 months, I felt my children, I have 2 little ones, real little ones, and 2 bigger ones. I think they all needed me, but the 2 little ones I felt had a special need for their data. And I came back. And this was a week and a half ago. And I know of a bunch of really nice restaurants in the area. And there's probably at least maybe 10 restaurants I'd consider pretty darn nice in my downtown in Naperville, Illinois. And is it really only last Saturday? See, maybe I should cut myself some slack. Because it was really only last Saturday. And I pulled into my hometown a week and a half ago. But I feel I've had a lifetime of experiences in the last week and a half. Tiwi's asking if I'd be a bartender. I don't know how to make any fancy drinks. I think I'd be a good bartender. I think I'd be better bartender than I would a waiter. And maybe that's not a bad idea. And I think I could be what a nice restaurant might be looking for in a bartender outside of my lack of knowledge of how to make any fancy drinks. So that's not a horrible idea, and it might be an option for me. But anyway, last Saturday I went to 5 different restaurants, and one of them seemed excited enough. They were all kind of cautious, not because of me, but because they knew summer was coming to an end. And my first choice of restaurants I wanted to work at was a nice place called Hugo's Frog Bar, which is a cool and expensive bar, and it's under the Gibson's Steakhouse chain umbrella. And I went in there and met with the manager. He goes, honestly, we're not hiring. We're actually cutting back. You know, summer's coming to an end. We're closing the patio. So we're actually going to need to let some staff go. I go, yeah, maybe this one's just not the one. And I kind of got that vibe from a few different restaurants I went at. Everyone was nice. Everyone was pleasant. Everyone said, oh, yeah, well, we're always accepting applications, but, you know, this and that. And one place said, hey, I got a lot of excitement and a good feel and a good vibe off the people I met. And they reached out a couple days later and said, hey, summer's coming to an end, so it's not our busiest time, but could we get you started and have you starting at 2 or 3 shifts a week? And I go, well, in my mind, I'm going, hey, exciting place, good atmosphere. Maybe I could pick up some shifts. Maybe I could do this or get another job or what have you. So I started working there. And I worked hard, and I loved the people I worked with, and the experience was great. And I brought a positive attitude every day, worked late, folded the napkins, set the tables, hustled my butt off, and I promise you had a great attitude. But then on my last day of training, my boss's boss called me in and said, hey, we thought we'd have 2 or 3 shifts a week for you to pick up, but we're sorry. Something's happened and those 2 or 3 shifts a week aren't available anymore. I almost say that crying right now because it was a bummer. And I was disappointed. I'm still disappointed. And I realize things happen in life, and I realize it wasn't them being mean to me, and I know the business, and I know it's tough, and I know scheduling, and I know staffing. But I think while I was working out in Yellowstone, I almost, and I'm not saying got spoiled, because it wasn't easy. I was living in a dorm, there was no air conditioning, and I had a communal bathroom, and I ate in a cafeteria on trays. So let me tell you, it wasn't a glorious experience. But I was in a restaurant, and it was the only restaurant in town. Not in town, I didn't live in a town, but the only restaurant in Mammoth Hot Springs. Yellowstone attracts 4.5 million visitors, tourists each year. And one of the big stops in Yellowstone is Mammoth Hot Springs on the northwest corner of the park. And because of that, there's always traffic coming through there. And if that traffic wants to eat, and most people do want to eat, they will go to the dining room. And the dining room was open from 6:15 till after 10 o'clock every day, 7 days a week. And so they had a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner shift to staff. And as an employee there, I was working double shifts almost every day to a fairly crowded restaurant every day. And I think, and at the same time, only spending $500 a month in room and board. So even if you got a bad table or had a bad night, your costs were low, you could cover your financial responsibilities, and you were going to work 2 shifts the following day and probably do pretty well. But anyway, with all the optimism of my hard work and whatever, I came back here kind of almost thinking it'd just be this magic place with endless shifts and endless customers. And I think over the last week and a half, I realized that it's not necessarily that way. It's not necessarily that way. And again, they didn't have the shifts for me at the restaurant I was hired by. And that was a bummer. And I said goodbye to a couple employees on the way out, probably watery-eyed, and I sat in the lobby in stunned silence going, I don't even know what just happened. And I walked to a different restaurant with tears in my eyes and met with a guy, and he was really friendly and kind and cool and understanding of my situation, and talked to him for a while. I don't think it'll be the right setup for me, but he was cool. And while I was sitting in that lobby, kind of with tears in my eyes, wondering what just happened, I'd received a text from another restaurant, asked if I'm still looking for a job. And I met with that other restaurant yesterday, and I met with a few different restaurants yesterday, and I went back to one of the restaurants I checked in on, I met with last Saturday. And what I kind of realized, and I had an interview yesterday, and it went well, and I was me, and I told him my strengths, and I answered his questions, and I think it couldn't have gone better. But I think the biggest concern that we both had was how busy was the restaurant going to be in the coming months? And was it going to be busy enough was it going to be busy enough to cover my financial needs? And I get it. My financial needs aren't the restaurant's concern, but they are my concern. And as an employee of these places, becomes their concern as well. So anyway, although I think I have another offer from a different nice restaurant, the vibe I got was he was concerned not about the number of hours, because he's got a lot of hours to give, but the number of customers they're going to have. And I'll tell you what, as a waiter who feels very confident in his own skills and thinks I'm a really good waiter, I've realized people kind of tip what they're going to tip. And what determines, and the guy asked me yesterday, what determines the wage or how much a waiter makes. And I looked at him and said, well, I know a good interview answer would be if you can upsell or how much you hustle or this or that. But honestly, I've determined it's volume. And the more customers you have, the more sales you're going to have. And the more sales you're going to have, the more money you're going to make. And yes, you can upsell a little bit here and there. And yes, a great personality or a little spring in your step might increase the tip you receive from a customer by 1% or 2%. I haven't found it dramatically impacts the bottom line that a waiter receives, because I think if you thought about it, I know for me, I generally tip what I tip as a customer. Sometimes I'll give a little bit more. It'll always be a little bit more than normal, but I tip that whether they're good or not for whatever reason. Or I might shave a little bit off if they're not, or give a little bit more, but it's usually in a tiny little range. And yeah. So anyway, during the night, I was wondering, despite my best intentions and despite my thoughts and my plans and what brought me here and all my ambition, is this me coming back, waiting tables at a high-end restaurant in Naperville? Is it going to cover my financial responsibilities and keep a roof over my head? And I'm not sure the answer is yes. I'm not sure the answer is yes. I came back with confidence. I still have that confidence. I still know what I bring to the table. I still know I'm as hard a worker as anybody in that restaurant's going to be, or any place that hires me. I still know I bring a ridiculously good attitude. But I'm not sure that it's the right solution. So that's what was weighing on my mind as I lay in bed this morning at 4 o'clock. Can I get a little more coffee? I'm going to get a little more coffee. You guys don't have to stick around, but I've got a little more to say. I've got a little more to say, so stay with me. Stay with me. Oh, coming back. Here I am. I'm back. Somebody asked, wait, you say waiter, not server? I would generally say waiter. Maybe today's term is server, but I would say waiter. Kiwi's making a suggestion. Hey, Kiwi, I appreciate your suggestion, but I've got a pretty good grasp on the restaurants in the area. and what is high volume and what is not. McDonald's is a high volume restaurant, but I don't want to apply at McDonald's. Yeah. I know I got a fairly good idea about the restaurants in the area, but I do appreciate the suggestions. But yeah, so it made me wonder. And I don't have an answer for that. But I did think of things I was grateful for. And I did say a little prayer before I got out of bed this morning. Hello, James Van Dam. And I said, God, please give me the strength to get through this. And God said to me, you have the strength. Made me feel good. I'm serious. But anyway, another thought for you. You guys know I bounce between a couple different social media platforms. And I've been bouncing between Instagram and TikTok over the last few months. And I grew Coffee with Ken as a business concept over on TikTok. And I have a lot of issues with TikTok. Not edit, what is it called? They have the power to hop in while you're doing a video and shut off your video if you're saying something they don't want you to say. And when I'm doing a live video on TikTok, I'm afraid to say the word Instagram or YouTube or marijuana or alcohol or gambling or any number of words, or talk politics or talk international trade or the economy or communism or all sorts of things. Because I'm afraid at any moment during a live video, they might hop in and shut down my live video. And I don't like that feeling. Now, I don't like that feeling at all, and I've had it happen, and they've said, hey, they've shut down my live video, they've taken away my account, they've stopped my account, said I've been permanently banned. You guys watch my show. What do I say that could cause me to be permanently banned? I don't know. So I've had issues with TikTok since the beginning, and they're a place that seems to foster a lot of trolls. I have various troll groups on on TikTok that say a lot of negative stuff about me. And for some reason, TikTok allows that to go on. But that's two issues. Another issue, and this is a big issue, and it's kind of a bummer for me as far as that platform goes. I think I'd like to do this professionally. And I think my experiences and my ability to talk and tell a story offer some value to some people. And I'd like to do this professionally, and I'd like to be able to pay my bills. And TikTok offers a program, and it's called the CPP Creator Program, or I forget what it's called, but I'm in it. Creativity Program or something like that, where once you hit 10,000 followers, you post a video and it gets X number of views, you're going to make money on it. And for 2 years, it took me about 2 years to build up to 10,000 followers on TikTok. And I did. And almost the week I did, my viewership dropped. I lost about 80% of the views on my videos. I kid you not. And I was wondering, what did I do wrong? Did I say something? Did I say one of these banned words? Or did I piss off the powers that be? But I never got an answer, and I never understood why. But my videos, the viewership on my videos did get cut by more than half. And the interaction in my videos got cut by more than half. I post a video in an hour I would get 1,500 views and have 40 likes and 15 comments for the last year I produced content over there. And suddenly I'd post a video and it would, by the end of the day, it would have 150 views and 3 likes and 1 comment. And I was going, hey, well, this seems wrong. I finally got to 10,000 viewers and my audience disappeared. About a couple months ago, there's one asset to TikTok, and I'll get to that in a minute. But my viewership disappeared, but I started going live there because there was a lot of people I still enjoyed and an audience that I cared about and had built up and knew some of the names, kind of like I'm starting to see these names, you guys, and I see you guys every morning. I had the same feeling over on TikTok. And I felt some loyalty there, and I wanted to build it up, and I wanted it to grow. So I started going live on there. And about 3 weeks ago, I noticed my audience started growing again. My audience started growing again. And my viewership started growing again. And suddenly my videos were no longer getting 200 views each. They were starting to get 2,000, and then 5,000, and 20,000. And I was posting these longer form videos over on TikTok, and they were getting 8,000, 9,000 views a day. And to qualify for compensation or monetization on your videos, they have rules, and one of them is it's got to be a minute long, and then they got to be over 1,000 qualified views, and then they have some other fine print. And I go, whatever, let's see how it goes. And the very first day I was on the program, I had a video get seen like 8,000, 9,000 times, and I was paid $9. And I said, hey, this is pretty cool. $9 for one video. I bet if I build an audience and it grows, I'll make more money. But then my video stopped getting seen. And about 2 weeks ago, they started getting seen again. And I wasn't compensated for it. I don't even know how to say it in any nice way. And RJ's watching out there. I was sending them a chart. They'll send you a chart and show you qualified views, how much you're paid, how much per 1,000, how much this. Here's your qualified videos. Here's how many views they get. And none of them, it didn't matter how long a video was or what the content I was talking about or how many views I got, was I compensated for. And it was just weird. I'm going, I want to work with a platform I trust and I know, and I'm not even compensated at all. And it's not even really about the money, but it's interesting from a business perspective. Here on Instagram, they don't pay you at all, but YouTube pays you a little bit, and they have a system to monetize you and pay you a little bit of money. And I know if I have a video do so well, I'm going to make X number of dollars on YouTube. But on TikTok, it wasn't working that way. And it didn't matter how many viewership or how many views or how many likes, or they just didn't pay me. And I reached out for feedback. I sent in a feedback thing, and they sent a form response answering my question vaguely. And I sent a follow-up question going, but wait, I understand that it needs to be a qualified view, but my videos are long enough, and they're original content, and they're getting the views, but I'm not getting paid. And their response was basically, well, the system's so complicated, it's kind of hard to explain. Maybe they should simplify their system a little bit. Because basically, I know TikTok can cut me off at any moment, can decide they call it an algorithm. It's not an algorithm. I'd reach out to RJ and say, hey, look, the viewership's going up. And he'd go, oh, it's because it's great content. I don't think that's true at all. I think my content's been consistent since I started doing my show. And they determine, if they're going to determine how many times your videos get seen and have some arbitrary system to determine what a qualified view is that is too complicated to use, I'm wondering what the viability of that platform is long term at all. You know, it's kind of fun that it's the wild, wild west and that what's neat about the platform is you can go live on it. And right now I got 28 viewers here. But I was live on TikTok yesterday and I had 70 viewers. And sometimes it'll spike up to 200. And occasionally they'll show your videos to a huge audience. And there's really no rhyme or reason. And and it was just kind of interesting to me. And I have another thought. And it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same. When it comes to like relationships, whether it's a friendship or a spousal relationship or a relationship with a boss or an employee or whoever. I think at some point we need to accept the world as it is and accept the person as it is and the career as it is and the job as it is and life as it is. Because I think sometimes if I have a big smile and come in with a great attitude and work hard, that I can move my way up the ranks at Target in an unnatural speed. Or if I come in and work hard as a waiter, the shifts are going to magically open up for me. Or if I hustle as a waiter, the tips will be huge and it'll cover my financial responsibilities. Or if I read the Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus book, my relationships will magically work out. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I'm pretty sure it's not true. And at some point, we got to understand the person we're looking at or the job we're looking at or the career we're looking at or the restaurant or the town is the way it is. And is this person, is this job, is this career, they're not going to change. And if we work harder or smile bigger or self-improve, will that impact the happiness in a relationship, the pay in a career, or the customer traffic in a restaurant? And I'm not sure that it will. And again, I saw this as a realtor. I tried pretty hard and I thought I had some talent, but I only achieved a certain level of success. And no matter what I did, and I saw a guy at Starbucks yesterday and explained it to him. He asked if I'm still doing real estate. I said no, and this, and this reason. He goes, yeah, I got 4 good friends that are realtors, and if I choose whoever I choose, the other 3 are going to be mad at me. And I go, that's just a horrible feeling, and I don't want that feeling, and I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore. So eventually, and it took me 17 years to realize that real estate sales was this, and that I didn't want this. And maybe being a waiter or a server, whether I'm at this restaurant or that restaurant or this restaurant, maybe their seasons will be slow. And maybe as kids go back to school and summer fades to fall and winter, the traffic will slow and the income will slow and the tips will slow and the shifts will drop and my expenses won't be covered. And I can't have that happen. I can't have that happen. And maybe as a career of a stockbroker and a realtor and a career of a guy that had a degree in finance from a nice college, and maybe I was spoiled with the thought that the world could bend around my activity or my effort, and if I sold a lot, I'd earn a lot. And maybe that only happens in certain jobs. Or otherwise, you got to put your time in and keep your nose to the grindstone and stay at it. And I don't feel I have the luxury of that time. I didn't have 20 years to move up in Target and take my boss's position. And again, at Hugo's Frog Bar, the guy goes, well, you should come back in the spring. It's when we start getting real busy. I don't have the luxury. I don't want to come back in the spring. I need a job now. I need the money now. And I have expenses for now. And in terms of relationships, it goes as well. I think you can only do so much to impact the world. Yes, how you perceive things is important, but at the end of the day, the job as a waiter's needs customers to come in the restaurant. And when it snows, people tend to stay at home and order pizzas a little bit more. And the restaurant's business fades off. And in a relationship, certain people are the way they are, and they have the right to be the way they are, and should be the way they are, and hopefully are living their dreams and chasing their dreams just as I am. But if a person's dreams don't align at all with your dreams, I'm not saying they're not valid or important or relevant. You got to let that person go as well. And sometimes in life, I have a hard time letting go. And again, I was a realtor for 17 years, and I did that too long. And I've stuck with things maybe longer than I should. Somebody asked about waiting tables in Chicago. They'd be busier, but I don't think it's the location. I think Naperville, yeah, there'd be restaurants that do better in Chicago, but again, you'd have to live in Chicago, and the cost of living's high there as well. What I'm looking at here is a place where my costs to put a roof over my head are about $2,000 a month. And you need to make a certain amount of money, and it might be challenging in the careers in waiting tables, more challenging than I thought. And just kind of was weighing on me this evening as I was laying in bed. So maybe it's okay. I'm sure it's okay, because as God told me, I am strong. And maybe, I've got a second interview at a restaurant today, but after meeting with the gentleman, I'm not sure they're going to be busy enough to cover my expenses. And that's kind of a bummer for me, because this was my plan. And again, life doesn't always work by some grand plan. But this was my plan. And the restaurant that I thought was cool and jumping, and it is cool and it is jumping, didn't have enough work for me. And I can only lick my wounds so long about that. And honestly, I licked them. But I went from that lobby to another restaurant and applied with tears in my eyes, and called another restaurant and set up an interview. That day, and went and interviewed last night, and have another interview today. It's one of those, don't overthink it too much, but you're looking out. Yeah, no, I think things are okay. But I also think decisions need to be made and choices need to be made. And some decisions are happening in front of me, and some I just got to keep my eyes open to. Because, again, I went in like 5 or 6 restaurants yesterday, and I wasn't sure that any of them had the shifts need for me that I have. And there are companies out there that probably do, that my skill set would fit in well with, and that I'd be pretty darn good at. And they're not real estate sales, and they're not financial sales, and they're not a bunch of different things. But maybe my focus had gotten too tight or too narrow, and my thought of the future looked, in my mind, was a certain way. And maybe sometimes the way we picture things exactly doesn't quite work out and isn't quite the way. And I've been twice divorced, so I promise you, when I married either of those women, I don't think any of us were planning on it ending in divorce. Certainly I wasn't. But sometimes things don't work out just as we'd hoped. And that's okay. But I think it's important to rebound and find some strength and keep going and drink our coffee and find some gratitude and say a little prayer and go to the gym and keep moving forward. But anyway, it's Tuesday morning. I want to thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. I really do. I've been alternating back and forth between Instagram and TikTok, so I'm scheduled to go live on TikTok tomorrow, but I'm not 100% sure why I do. I know why I do, because occasionally I'll have 200 people watching one of my live videos, and that maybe boosts my ego. But as far as a platform I can trust or build on, and that was my point. And it's not just your career, and it's not just your relationship. And I was talking with RJ about it yesterday, and I was saying, look, how often have I bitched about TikTok as a platform and said there's trolls on it, or they don't monetize right, or why are my viewers disappeared? And I never do that with the other platforms, and I think you'd agree. You know what you're getting on Instagram, and you know what you're getting on YouTube, and you know what you're getting on Facebook, and I know what I'm getting on TikTok. So bitching about it really doesn't do any good. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. Bitching about it doesn't do any good, but also I think evaluating the platform you're creating content on and being real and being honest about it and saying, hey, TikTok's not going to change to make me happy, just like this person's not going to change to make me happy, or the career that is serving tables isn't suddenly magically going to change to fit my needs and wants. So I think my point is you got to be realistic about what you're looking at and know what you can change and what you can't. And no matter how swell my content is on TikTok, or how big my smile is when I walk into a restaurant as a server, or how much I try and look at it from somebody else's perspective when I'm in a relationship, they are going to be who they are. The restaurant's going to be only as busy as the restaurant is, and TikTok's going to be as reliable as it's always been. And I need to be open and honest about what I'm dealing with and be okay with it, but also make decisions based on the way they are, not based on how I wish they'd be or how I want them to be or how cool it'd be if they'd be this way. Do I have any issues with YouTube? I don't know that it's a great platform for live content. I know there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people that put a lot of effort into YouTube. I do know they consistently compensate creators. Not a lot, not me a lot. I'm not saying I deserve to be compensated a lot, but I understand their system of compensation. But I don't think as far as a live platform it's good. I think if I was live on YouTube right now, I'd have 5 people watching, and I have 30 here on Instagram, and I might have 70 on TikTok. And if I post a video over there, I kind of understand how it works. So I'd say I don't have any real issues with YouTube. I just don't think it's a great platform for live content. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody tell me differently. But anyway, it's Tuesday morning. It is 6:07. I'm excited about my day. I am going to see my little ones at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I have a 4:30 interview, second interview at a restaurant that I'm not sure will be busy enough to cover my costs. I have several hours ahead of me that are open, and I can accomplish what I want and what I think I need to do. And I think what I need to do is maybe open my eyes a little wider to the possibilities that exist that I may have turned my back on. And I guarantee there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of things I could look at that aren't involved in either content creation or serving tables that might be lucrative opportunities and opportunities for me to cover my financial responsibilities. So that's where I'm at for today. I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to my day. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful day. And I know I got a pot, or about 2/3 of a pot of Sumatra waiting for me, and I got a whole bag of pumpkin spice if I want to switch my coffees I'm drinking. And I'm excited about my day, and I hope you are as well. I want to thank you so much for joining on this Tuesday morning. I hope you are feeling good. I hope you are loving yourself. I hope you're forgiving yourself. And as always, I hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.